The Wild West. Untamed, unmatched. This time in history has been recreated through countless books and movies. One of the most fascinating things about the American West during the 1800s has got to be the gunslinger. This mythical cowboy has captured the attention of history and movie fans for more than a century. The bravery of the lawman, the cunning of the outlaw, and the smoke of the six-shooter. Today, we will be ranking the top 10 gunfights of the Wild West. Welcome to Chronicles of Time, a channel that covers both well-known and obscure historical events. If you like what we're doing here, leave a like, a comment, and please subscribe. It really does help the channel. If you have a moment in history you want us to cover, let us know down in the comments. Let us start with number 10. The Battle of Ingalls. Ingalls is located in Oklahoma and was a hideout for the Doolin-Dalton gang in the early 1890s. Ingalls was no stranger to outlaws of the time. The town welcomed their influx of stolen cash. In August of 1893, several members of the gang were hiding out in town and spending time at the Ransom Saloon. U.S. Marshals got word and formed a posse of roughly 27 deputy marshals. While camping along the creek, a young boy spotted the marshals and ran to tell the outlaws. Even though the outlaws were warned, they just returned to their poker game. On September 1st, the posse crept into town to launch their attack. The gang was still drinking and gambling in the saloon, all except Arkansas Tom Jones. He was sick in his bed when he saw the attack begin and opened fire from his second-story window, killing U.S. Deputy Marshal Thomas Houston. Outlaws Red Buck, Bill Dalton, and Tulsa Jack rode out of the stable with guns blazing. A deputy named Shadley shot Bill Dalton's horse and sent Dalton flying to the ground. Bill Dalton recovered from this fall and shot Deputy Shadley dead. Bill Doolin would kill Deputy Speed, and outlaws Dynamite Dick Clifton and Charlie Pierce would be shot but survived to escape. The only person left behind was Arkansas Tom. He held out in his hotel room until Deputy Marshal Jim Masterson threatened to throw dynamite into his hiding place. He was captured and sent to federal prison. Next we move to number 9, Harry Morse versus Juan Soto. Harry Morse was a sheriff and dedicated outlaw hunter. Juan Soto was the outlaw that he had been after for some time. Juan Soto, who is said to be a massive man, was hiding out in Central California. Morse led a group of lawmen to the area and found Soto lounging at a table with a few women. Morse ordered one of his lawmen to arrest Soto, but that lawman broke down and ran. Morse fought his way out of the house and miraculously avoided being shot. Morse fled to safety with Soto in hot pursuit. And this is the moment where Morse would earn his reputation as the best-known peace officer and manhunter on the Pacific coast. It is reported that Morse dropped Soto from 100 yards with a shot to the head, thus ending our 9th gunfight. Number 8. Luke Short versus long-haired Jim Courtright. This is named as the last great duel of the Old West. Luke Short was a gambler and a saloon keeper that recently sold his stake at the White Elephant Saloon in Fort Worth, Texas. Long-haired Jim was running a detective agency that was really just an extortion operation. When long-haired Jim approached Short for protection money for the White Elephant, the duel was on. That night, long-haired Jim drunkenly called Short out for a duel. The two faced off at close range outside the White Elephant Saloon. It is documented that Luke Short shot long-haired Jim's thumb off on his first shot. By the time long-haired Jim got his gun to his other hand, Luke Short had already shot him twice in the chest. The funny thing is the two men are actually buried just a few feet away at Fort Worth's Oakwood Cemetery. Number 7. Captain Davis versus the Sydney Ducks. The Sydney Ducks were a Goldfield cutthroat gang that hung around El Dorado County in California. Captain Jonathan Davis was traveling with 2 companions on a trail when they were ambushed by 14 of the Sydney Ducks. Both of Captain Davis's companions were killed almost immediately by the attack. Captain Davis, however, was still alive. Captain Davis opened fire on the group and killed 7 of the attackers quickly. Seeing their opportunity, the remaining group charged Captain Davis with bowie knives and swords. Captain Davis pulled his own bowie knife out and killed 4 more of the group before the remaining survivors escaped. Number 6. The Frisco Shootout. A 19-year-old man with the last name Baca was upset at a drunken cowboy named Charlie McCarty. McCarty was shooting at the feet of Mexican citizens in the town to make them, quote, dance, kind of like you see in Western films. Baca took it upon himself to actually arrest McCarty. McCarty's foreman demanded that McCarty be released and was told by Baca, quote, you have 3 seconds. Baca shot and killed the foreman, and this led to an 80-man mob to return the next morning. Baca took cover in a tiny hut, hunkering down on a recessed mud floor, and he got some shots off while weathering an assault that allegedly sprayed the hut with 4,000 bullets, 367 of those into the door alone. After a 33-hour siege, 4 cowboy assailants would be dead, and Baca very much alive, calmly cooking breakfast in the back. Or so the story goes. The siege ended with Baca's negotiation surrender under sheriff supervision. He faced a pair of murder trials, won 2 acquittals, and went on to a long, prosperous life as an attorney, school superintendent, and a politician. Number 5. The Coffeyville Bank Robbery. We mentioned them at number 10, but here we see the end of the Dalton Gang. The Dalton Gang attempted to rob 2 banks during broad daylight at the same time in Coffeyville, Kansas. When the gang rode into town, they were recognized and word started to spread. While the banks were being robbed, the townspeople armed themselves and opened fire on the gang. At one of the banks, a cashier claimed that the vault could not be opened due to a time lock, and this allowed the townspeople more time to position themselves. All of the Dalton gang was killed except for Emmett Dalton. He was shot 23 times but survived. He served 14 years of a life sentence and actually became a screenwriter in Hollywood, California, and died at the age of 66. Number 4. The gunfight at the Long Branch Saloon. We head out to arguably one of the most famous Wild West cities of its time, Dodge City, Kansas. This gunfight involved Levi Richardson and cockeyed Frank Loving. Richardson was known as slow and awkward, but had a reputation as an excellent gunfighter. The 2 men gambled often together, but Richardson started to develop feelings for Frank's wife, Maddie. The 2 got into a fistfight over Maddie and threats were made. A few weeks later, Levi Richardson and cockeyed Frank Loving ran into each other at the Long Branch Saloon. Words were exchanged and pistols were drawn, and gun smoke filled the room. Levi Richardson slowly turned towards the billiard table and fell on the floor with fatal gunshots to the chest. Cockeyed Frank Loving was only grazed by a bullet on his hand. He was arrested, but released with claims of self-defense. Cockeyed Frank would actually be killed in Colorado in another shootout after he left his wife, Maddie. Number 3. Wild Bill versus David Tutt. A drunken card game in Springfield, Missouri led to the most famous and one of the few prearranged quick-draw duels in Western history. They were about 75 yards from each other, with cap and ball revolvers, when Hickok said, "Dave, don't come any closer. That's one very difficult shot with a Civil War era piece." Tutt snapped off the first bullet and missed. Wild Bill took a split second longer, steadied his gun with his left hand, carefully aimed, and hit Tutt in the chest, and that was the end of it. In spite of their extreme rarity, these fast-draw duels became a staple of all things movie scene, where the Hollywood emphasis was on speed alone. If there's one thing Hickok proved in the single gunfight, is that accuracy always takes precedence. Number 2. Wild Bill and the Dead Man's Hand. We again visit our friend Wild Bill, but this time he isn't so lucky. With this gunfight, the most famous hand in poker was born. A pair of aces and a pair of eights, both in black. The Dead Man's Hand. Jack McCall was drunk at the saloon in Deadwood and was playing cards with Wild Bill. McCall proceeded to lose several hands and was soon out of money. Wild Bill offered McCall money to buy breakfast and advised him not to play again until he could cover his losses. Although Jack McCall accepted the money, he felt very insulted at the gesture. The next evening, McCall returned to the bar and saw Wild Bill playing cards. Jack McCall came up from behind and shot Wild Bill with his .45 caliber pistol. Wild Bill Hickok died instantly, and the hand he was playing was made legend. Hickok's last words were supposedly, quote, "The old duffer, he broke me on the hand," not knowing that Jack McCall was behind him. Our last gunfight, and number 1, the most famous gunfight of all time, the shootout at the OK Corral. I could say many things about this gunfight. There are entire movies based on the 30-second moment in time. Ike Clanton and Tom McClary of the Clanton-McClary gang rode into Tombstone for supplies. They were known as cattle rustlers, thieves, and murderers. They had multiple run-ins with the famous Wyatt Earp, his brother Morgan and Virgil, and their friend Doc Holliday on October 25th of 1881. Around 3 p.m., the Earps and Holliday spotted 5 members of the Clanton-McClary gang in a vacant lot behind the OK Corral. In 30 seconds, around 30 shots were fired. It is still debated on who shot first, but reports say that Virgil Earp shot Billy Clanton point blank, and Doc Holliday shot Tom McClary in the chest with a shotgun. Virgil Earp, Morgan Earp, and Doc Holliday were wounded but survived. The Earps and Holliday were charged with murder, but a month later, a judge found the men not guilty. The judge said, quote, "They were fully justified in committing these homicides." That completes our list of top 10 gunfights. Thanks for watching Chronicles of Time. We really appreciate the support. If you have a moment in time you want us to cover, let us know in the comments. Leave us a like and subscribe. It really does help the channel.